Hello all, and welcome to this. No Q&A today, only because I actually had an idea for something I wanted to talk about. Kind of odd, because I talked about kind of Brock Lesnar yesterday, but not really. And after thinking about it, and then after my friend Brian, after me and him talked about Raw yesterday, it came to my attention that there was something I could talk about. And that's kind of an issue that, and I've talked about this before with WWE, where they have forgotten they've forgotten the fact that, or they're not aware of the fact that they can't get the fans to kind of play along with what they want to do, because the fans don't care anymore, because they've basically told the fans that whatever you do doesn't matter anyway, so just play along as best of your ability. What do I mean when I say that? On Raw, we had Edge come out to tell John Cena that, you have to beat Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar is just here to make money. He doesn't like pro wrestling. If he becomes, if he becomes the face of the company, he's gonna destroy the company, something like that. Basically said you have to win. And there was something that Big Rat said on Twitter that was absolutely correct, which was, the dynamic between Edge and Cena was just something that we don't see a lot of. You have it with Punk and Cena, but he brought up that point. And the point, that Orton and Cena don't have. And the reason why they don't have it is I think Orton and Cena are very much the same type of character. I think Orton is just more serious, where, Cena is more of the, happy-go-lucky. That's why, Orton can do this heel and heel thing, and Cena can't. And so you basically have two guys that, fans aren't necessarily, enthralled with, and so you put them together and it just becomes just kind of there. You put Edge, who is kind of just opposite of Cena in a lot of character ways, and it works a lot better. Just throwing that out there. But went through that, and then we had, of course, Brock go out, even after they were playing all these promos talking about that, Brock was an ass kicker, or Brock was this, Brock was that, showing him destroying people, trying to put him over as a monster heel, or a monster, I should say, not even as a heel. Then he came out later, made all these demands, playing the asshole, playing the very role that, Edge said he was. He was just there for the money. He didn't care about anyone. He was only out for himself, this, that, or the other. Basically playing the mercenary role. And the whole reason to do this, in my opinion, was so that they would get the fans to turn on Brock, since he'd been, for the most part, cheered since he'd been debuted, and for the fans to cheer Cena, which isn't going to happen. They tried that with Rock. It didn't happen. They keep trying now with different people, and it doesn't happen. And, somewhere I think they're like, okay, eventually we're going to be able to con the fans into doing what we want. I don't think they can do that anymore. And the reason is because they haven't given the fans what they've wanted in so long that, you can't fool the fans into giving something they don't want. We've gone almost 10 years now, I would say, with them continually not listening to the fans when the fans want them to push somebody, or when the fans get behind somebody and then they pull the rug out from under, and now the fans are like, why should we even care about guys that are getting built if we have no faith that it's going to go anywhere? I've talked about this a lot. And, a good example kind of how this all started was with Goldberg. They brought in Goldberg, completely misused Goldberg under the assumption of, well, we're going to show the fans that, he was never really all that good, and that he can't really wrestle. Well, that's not even using Goldberg right. I mean, the whole idea to use Goldberg is to make money, and the best way to make money is to keep the matches short. Yes, you can have him beat, but, eventually, Triple H could have beat him at WrestleMania, or Steve Austin could have beat him at WrestleMania. Someone could have beat him at a WrestleMania. You could have got the big payday. But before that, you just make him into a big, huge monster. I mean, that's what you do. They didn't do that. You saw them do that, Scott Steiner, who was mad over, but they were like, Scott Steiner can't wrestle, so they went out there, put him in a match where he was going to fail. You see that with Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder, the best wrestler in the world? No, he went out and got himself over, which, by the way, every WWE guy head that has any type of say go whenever they're doing an interview and they talk about new stars not being made, and they first thing around the well, guys have to get themselves over. Then when guys get themselves over, they're basically told, we don't care. We're going to make you look like a fool. We're going to make the fans turn on you because we didn't make you, and if we didn't make you, then it doesn't matter. So, to try to go out and to try to get the fans to follow along with what you want the fans to follow along with is fine, and it's part of pro wrestling, and any good booker should be able to do that. But to do that, you have to kind of give them what they want at the same time, so that when you kind of try to force them to go away, they're kind of like, oh, let's go this way, because why not? For whatever reason. Instead of the fans just not caring. And that's a huge problem with WWE. I think that's one of the reasons why, one of the many reasons why I think UFC, even though UFC is kind of on a downturn now, but a lot of it has to do with TV, which, by the way, I said many moons ago that UFC's needed to work on their TV production, and no one wanted to listen. But anyways, we won't get into that. You have a guy like Mark Hunt is a great example. Here's a guy UFC didn't even want. Went out, lost his first match, but they still had to give him like 2 more matches, I think. And then went on this stupid win streak where now, if he wins his next fight, theoretically, he could be in line for a title shot. Is he the greatest guy in the world? No. Is he easily beatable? Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, he's gone on this. He's not only does he have this weird charisma and that people like seeing him fight, he is this big fat guy who just throws punches and wins, and people like that. And he got himself over, as do most to succeed in UFC and to kind of become popular, not just winning, but to also get popular, you kind of have to do it yourself. And fans know, hey, I can follow this guy, and there's not gonna, his destiny is in his own hands. He's not being, controlled by the puppet master back behind the curtain, who, if, he doesn't want there to be something, well, that's not going to happen. And I do think, not that that's a big part of why, UFC has kind of gone past WWE, but I think that is part of it. I think there's lots of little things that go on with it. But, it's just one of those things. And one of the things I really noticed was, you don't have a lot of the guys from the 90s when the last time Vince McMahon was really, creatively, I would say, just really stale. None of those guys that were there to kind of kick him in the butt and eventually get him out of it, because he reverted back to the 80s, which is kind of what he's done now, or what he's tried to do now, and the fans keep like, this isn't what we want, and so he keeps trying to have to do something else, and then he eventually tries to go back to trying to do what he did in the 80s, instead of listening to the fans and trying to take what the fans dictate, take that, and then try to take that into a direction, which is kind of what you need to do, in my opinion. But anyways, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. So, with that, I know I rambled. Don't know if that made any sense. If it didn't, sorry. But